everybody. I'm Larry.
I'm Christine.
And we're the Silver Wanderers. So we took the Camel Coast Line bus from Istanbul to Canakkale. A little more than 4 hours with a couple of rest stops. A good thing since the buses in Turkey don't have any bathrooms. But they do have free coffee, juice, snacks along the way. And oh yeah, ice cream. Well, baby, it's the trip so far.
I have number.
You have lumpa.
But it's okay. It's very comfortable for you.
Alright. Love the buses here. You get ice cream. And a 20-minute taxi ride. Here we are. We're here for a couple of days. And we're out to find us some dinner and figure out how to get to Troy. That's the site we want to see tomorrow. So our place is right down on the waterfront, pretty close, as you can see. And it looks like we'll catch the sunset. Well, here's something you don't see every day, a Turkish submarine parked at the waterfront. Canakkale is a city and a seaport on the southern shore of the Dardanelles at their narrowest point. It's the main visitor base for people visiting the Gallipoli War memorials in the ancient city of Troy. It has a waterfront promenade that's flanked by the Maritime Museum, which we visited instead of the Gallipoli War memorials, and it's the nearest major urban center to the ancient city of Troy. The wooden horse from the 2004 movie Troy is exhibited on the waterfront. The clock tower, built in 1897 in the town's main square, is another of Canakkale's attractions. It's a nice place for a quiet rest from the busy waterfront promenade and to chill out with some of the town's local pussycats. We wrapped up a long travel day with a beautiful sunset dinner on the waterfront. It's just lentil soup for me tonight though, because my tummy's still recovering from whatever bug it was I caught in Istanbul. Christine enjoyed herself though. So here it is, our first Turkish breakfast of the trip. It's got some nice little fruits and some breads. A little spread of cheeses and jams. And a memina. What do you think, baby? You ready? As far as I know, the dog cull bylaw is only in Istanbul, because here in Canakkale, you see them everywhere. We've had a change in plans, and we're going to pass on the Gallipoli War memorials north of the city and stick closer to the hotel today. And we'll do Troy tomorrow.
Oh.
So first stop today is the Caeli Sultania, or the Semenlik Castle, which was built on the Asian shore of the Dardanelles in 1452. Today it's part of the Canakkale Naval Museum. Semenlik Castle played a key role in the defense of the Dardanelles until World War I, and the museum housed here today includes both naval artifacts and exhibits portraying life in the Gallipoli trenches. The seaside wall was rebuilt in the late 19th century as a row of gun placements rather than a fortified wall, and for this reason the fort became the target of British and French ships in 1915. The artillery shell that was dropped from the British battleship HMS Queen Elizabeth on March 18, 1915, remained unexploded in the 2-meter hole it opened in the fortification wall, and it's still there where it fell. Well, that pretty much wraps up our visit to the Naval Museum and the Semenlik Castle, and we're off for a little dinner now. A little chicken sheesh, a salad, some lentil soup. Forgot what this was called, but it's like a breaded meatball. And this is a super spicy bulgur, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's yummy. And this is our dinner in Canakkale. I'm fully recovered from the European flu, I think. Laid me up for 2 days, but it's Sunday and we're heading to the city of Troy. Definitely things are a little slower on a Sunday morning than they have been all week here in Canakkale. Some yummy burek fresh out of the oven. That's going to take us to Troy. So these little buses run all over Turkey apparently. There's no schedule, or there is a schedule, but it doesn't necessarily run on the schedule. But before we go, we're going to enjoy our breakfast of burek and orange and almond cookies and some capioje before we hit the road and spend the day in Troy. We heard all this howling going on, so we're going to come out and check it. And we have a big fish market going on. Everybody's so friendly. And this is what all the commotion and hollering is about. So this is a dolmus. It's a shared taxi that runs on a sort of fixed schedule between towns and cities, and we've taken one from Canakkale to the city of Troy. We have made it to the city of Troy, or what remains of it. In the background here we have the Turkish version, not the Brad Pitt Troy movie version of the Trojan horse. So this one was just finished because a week ago somebody posted a video and it was under construction, so the paint is probably still wet. But regardless, this one you can go into. And here we are in the ancient city of Troy. There were at least 9 different settlements built here during the site's 4,000-year history, beginning around 3000 BC until around 500 AD, with remnants of the 5 different periods visible around the site. Though nowhere near as spectacular as those at Ephesus or Aphrodisia and others, the legend of Troy, told by the epic poem The Iliad, still draws thousands of visitors. Unfortunately, the wind is making reporting impossible, so I'm going to be voicing over most of this. Stonework is exquisite. Reminds me of the stonework in Peru. The tale of the Trojan War is perhaps the most famous story of ancient Greek mythology. For almost 3,000 years, the fabled feud between Greeks and Trojans has captivated audiences. Tradition holds that the war took place during the Mycenaean Age, towards the end of the 2nd millennium BC, a time of legendary heroes and warriors. Combatants on both sides, including Achilles, Odysseus, Ajax, Agamemnon, Hector, and Aeneas, remain household names even today. The Trojan War and its events provide the background for 2 epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, which were supposedly composed by the poet Homer around the 8th century BC.
So perfect.
And that used to be the ceiling, it said, of the temple. These are all pieces of it. From block to mud brick. And back to stone and mud. And this is the citadel wall. Makes you wonder what's still buried under here. All unexcavated. The first structure that you can see in this location is the fortification walls. Unlike the walls of Troy 6, erected from massive limestone blocks, these fortifications were constructed of handmade mud bricks. They date back to the period of 2250 to 2200 BCE, known as Troy II. The characteristic reddish color of the bricks results from the process of their production that required firing them in a kiln. In warm regions with very little timber available to fuel a kiln, such bricks were generally sun-dried. The act of firing the bricks in Troy means that it was once located in a forested area with plenty of wood readily available. In the tale of the Trojan War, the main gate to the city through which the Trojans went out to fight the Greek warriors on the plain below was called the Scaean Gate. A paved ramp led through a massive gate into the interior of Troy too, which was protected by the high walls. It's through these gates that the Trojans went out to fight the Greek warriors on the plain below, and the point at which Hector, while dying himself, foretold the demise of Achilles, who later that day died from an arrow through his heel. The approximate location of Troy was well known from references in works by ancient Greek and Latin authors, including Homer, Herodotus, and Strabo, but the exact site of the city remained unidentified until modern times. A large mound, known locally as Hisarlik, had long been understood to hold the ruins of a city named Ilion or Ilium that had flourished in Hellenistic and Roman times. It wasn't until 1822 that an archaeologist named Charles McLaren suggested that this was in fact the site of Homer's Troy.
These are the ruins of Roman baths. Wow. Just across the way. Excavation. Looks like it's being done.
And this wraps up our first ancient city, but there's still more to see. Unlike most ancient sites, the artifacts recovered are displayed at the Archaeological Museum next to the site. Many of the other sites have seen their artifacts moved to the city center museums or even museums around the world. The Troy Archaeological Museum was started in 2013, but construction stopped in 2015 due to funding shortfalls. It was restarted again in 2017, and it was opened in 2018 with artifacts transferred from Canakkale and Istanbul Archaeological Museums and the Museum of Anatolian Civilizations. Its stark rust iron-clad cube was the winner of a design competition, with its exterior meant to resemble an artifact from the site, its height and area reflecting the dimensions of the excavations.
On this side, it's lined with a whole variety of pedestals. Priam's high walls were stoned in the 10th year, and the archives set sail for the native land they loved, the Iliad.
Housed on 4 floors with a ramp ascending each floor, the exhibits include tear catchers, glass and terracotta perfume bottles, figurines, gold pieces and coins, necklaces and bracelets, ornaments, terracotta potteries, weapons and axes, sarcophagi and sculptures, as well as many other special pieces from the area's 5,000-year-old history. Well, we've had to rush the museum visit as our Domus is leaving in a half an hour for Canakkale, and it's a 20-minute walk from the museum back to the Troy entrance gates. Well worth the trip, though, and an introduction to ancient Anatolian civilization and the mysteries of Troy. And it's all free on our Turkey Museum Pass. But before we go, one of my favorite things about the museums here in Turkey is they always seem to add a little light humor to what is sometimes dry and dusty history. Luke, I am your father.